It's the video game industry all over again. It's microtransactions in your car. You paid full price, but you're not done yet because don't you want the upgraded battery life? Do you want that extra
one thing that drives me batshit, and I it started with Tesla. It started with Tesla, and now it's trickled on. It drives me nuts. Tesla will sell you a car that has 3 different levels of range, battery pack, or power, and the hardware is the same. It's the software can unlock it. So it's got all the shit that's already in the car, but you have to pay money to unlock the next level of performance.
That's so
like
shitty.
Kyle said, it's a microtransaction, but it's 10 grand.
That is fucking absurd. So every Tesla has the same capacity. You just have to pay a subscription to unlock it to
not
be faster.
every Tesla, but a bunch do. Yeah, but not every single one, but a bunch of them do. Yeah. Like
KTM does that on their motorcycles. I have one.
Yeah.
And there's a couple things. The ability to shift without using your clutch. It's called quick shift.
They have a quick shift built in, but you have to pay to unlock it. A quick shifter.
Yes. Cruise control. And then there's another thing
That's
having to do with traction control, which is a real big deal if you ride off-road. You want the better traction control. And when I bought my bike, which is like 2 years ago, you had to pay to unlock it. And people hated that, but for some reason they hate the new thing worse, which is they give it to you for free for something like 1,000 miles.
Oh, a trial, and then they take
a free trial, and then they take it away. Like they get you addicted to it. And people hate that far more than just not having it in the first place. Now, I used to work with ERP software, enterprise resource planning software. It's for manufacturing. So I know like a little bit about how manufacturing works because I did the software that supported it. And I can see why not having so many different configurations saves them money. Like it is cheaper to have one fucking cluster of switches that goes on every bike than it is to have 9 different clusters of switches with every combination of what you might add to it. But now you got a switch on there that doesn't do anything because you didn't pay for the software upgrade. And people
not even a blank, a proper switch that is just dead, right?
Yes, yeah. And people that's crazy. But I understand that like if you wanted a blank, you'd have to pay more because it's more expensive to give you all these configurations.
Right. That's like with cars, it's cheaper to put like say power windows in all of them and just build one type of door panel that has power windows rather than a crank window or something.
I didn't know that, but I can see it. Yeah.
So these group of hackers just jailbroke a Tesla. Did you read this one? They just figured out, this group of hackers figured out how to permanently unlock the top performance feature in the Teslas, and they found however you do it, and it's a hack, and you can permanently fucking unhook.
Tesla can't undo it.
Is your insurance going to work now that you've got this Tesla? That like, let's say you kill someone in that Tesla, vehicular manslaughter, or maybe it's not even your fault. Maybe it's their fault. But I assure you, if you kill someone in a Tesla will not take responsibility for anything you've done. What I'm saying is like worst case scenario, if something happens with
you're like trying to blame them, and you're like, yeah, but you were foot on the gas going 120.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, but still,
it was driving itself.
The Tesla should have detected that child.
Right. There was They were, and another thing that have happened, and I'm not sure if it's policy or random failure, is that when people pay extra for these unlocked features and they then go and sell the car to someone else, the next buyer, the second owner, finds those features locked again. And Tesla's going, you need to pay us for them now.
Dude, that sucks. I knew that was true, but that bothers me more than any of the other things that we've talked about. Like Tesla autopilot, I think it's $10,000. Does that sound right?
8 or 10.
I think, well, autopilot, so the quote autopilot is included with the cars. The full self-drive, which is not full self-drive at all, even close to it, by the way, disclaimer, this is fucking not a self-driving car, is $15,000, or I think you can do a monthly subscription.
So you pay
like $200 a month
for something called full self-driving.
That is not.
But they promise you they will upgrade it to full self-driving in 2 years.
Which they can't.
Every year. Every year. You're 2 years away, and it's been that way for like 11 years now.
The hardware. Yeah, the hardware. It's not just software. Which
they can't do it.
Initially, I bet he may have even been told by one of his devs or whoever, engineers, yeah, it'll be a software thing. It's amazing. But now we're so many years ahead and just body panels and shit that it's not software anymore. It's going to be hardware. Do we need LiDAR? Do we need some sort of do we going to put sonar on the motherfucker?
Dude, they've removed constantly trying new tech.
So you pay,
wow.
You pay
they used to have radar
$15,000
sensors, and now they only have cameras.
And when you resell it, you don't have it anymore. It's bullshit.
Right.
Yeah.
I saw something about Tesla.
Ooh,
that
they beat
a
earnings?
design flaw.
Oh, is it about the? Let me
The
just
rear
wait.
bumper can fall off when driving in puddles of water. On the Model 3.
I don't believe that.
It's right here in this. You don't believe the news?
This guy clearly just had an accident and blamed water.
It says, in rare instances, certain components on Model 3 vehicles built at the Fremont factory before May 21st, 2019, might be damaged when driving through standing water on a road or highway with poor drainage. In these instances, the rear fascia might detach from the vehicle, and harness and or body fasteners / mounts might also be damaged.
As you think about it, though, if I'm looking at this bumper, especially the right picture that gives you like a vibe, if it were to hook and catch water, that would be a tremendous amount pulling backwards on the fender, on the bumper.
Okay.
Like they say standing water, and
Everybody knows you're not supposed to drive your electric car in the rain anyway.
Sure, that's how you commit suicide.
I'm too dumb to talk about this, but Tesla believes that you don't need LiDAR, and that it's too expensive to implement. I don't know much about what's that?
It's LiDAR.
So I guess LiDAR is like a
lie detector that works from a long distance.
Ah,
let me see what it stands for.
is that the thing that keeps
Light
you in
detection and ranging. And I guess LiDAR gives a better view of like 3D images and distance than cameras do. So what Tesla does is they have multiple cameras all over their car, and it's meant to kind of stitch together images and infer from them and the difference between them data that you could get from LiDAR. Elon Musk says that LiDAR is too expensive and that it's not the right way to go. I don't know. I'm sitting here questioning Elon Musk as if I know what the hell's happening, but all the other autonomous car people use LiDAR, and it's in the new iPhone. So when you say it's too expensive, Elon Musk, do you mean it's like $13 per car? Like how much? There's LiDAR in iPhones now because it helps them do the autofocus. Like they get distance information better than you could otherwise. And yeah, I wonder how it'll go.
Elon Musk banned the guy that so this kid, I think he's a kid, like under 18, wrote software that tracked Elon Musk's plane and tweeted out every time it landed somewhere. Apparently that's speech protected by the First Amendment. I don't know. But that, like I saw it referenced, and there was a court case where they said this FAA information is publicly thing. So Elon banned this kid from Twitter. He had a Twitter account that would tell you everywhere his plane went. All right, cool. When I first saw that, I was like, there's free speech absolutionist. He actually called out that kid. He's like, I hate this, but because I care about free speech, I'm keeping it around. A month later, he doesn't. And then I learned something terrible happened. Did Elon Musk's kid get like attacked in his car? Did you hear about this?
So this guy has been, his bot basically retweets out the FAA information every time the plane takes off and lands somewhere.
Yeah.
And Elon's point was, don't give my current location, like delay it in a couple hours or something like that.
I don't think he said that
because
unless I missed it.
He did.
Okay.
But what happened was I guess a car was driving his son to the plane to be flown somewhere, his like baby from like a year or two ago, and some crazy.
What's his kid's name, Kyle?
It's Z or something or Zero or it's named after some plane. There's like letters and symbols in it.
It looks like you smashed the keyboard.
He calls him
like
Professor. They call him Professor X, and so like the little professor was in the car, and some crazy person jumped on the car, I guess, and tried to stop it, and like got on the hood, and so he was like, well, I'm gonna ban you now.
Yeah. And, once I learned all the details, I was on Team Musk with this thing. Like, all right,
yeah.
I don't know if the plane thing is related to the stalker thing, but I do see how you just clean up your security in general after an event like that.
Yeah. I don't care. I don't know why everybody hates Elon Musk. I don't know what he did. I still haven't seen him do anything that like we should give a shit about. Like, do you care if somebody takes over like an auto parts fucking store and starts cleaning house? No, you don't give a shit about the auto parts workers. And like, if Diane and HR got her benefits, like, why are y'all sucking Twitter's dick like it's some mom and pop thing built from the ground up by us? And
I'm sick of hearing about the cunt. It's like it was like if my wife came home and then just started telling me about like all of the ongoings of some fat old bitch that she works with who's having some marriage troubles or something. It's like I just don't give a fuck. Like
I'm addicted to information about everything Elon Musk does has been so interesting to me since he bought Twitter. The firings and the fact that the website seems to be running fine. You know, like to some extent, it's like you let go of the wheel and the thing is going to be okay for a little while. But it's been like a month, right? The thing's still. Maybe he was right and he only needed like 15% of that staff.
That would be the same with every fucking company on the planet though, because like there's so many middle managers and fuckwits in absolutely every single place. Like that just all their entire job is just having a shit MBA and they're just forwarding emails. Like
I bet Tesla is bare bones and everybody's sleeping there to get their job done. And like every time he does something, they're like trying to find some legalese way to be annoying. He's like, yeah, we put in some fucking bedrooms here at Twitter HQ because these guys are working 80, 90-hour weeks and they need to sleep in the office because that's what I require of people. If you don't like it, and go get another job that doesn't require that. But we got beds here. And they were like, actually, according to this ordinance, you can't have beds in there. Oh, God, let's rat him out.
And he's like, actually, I just bought the person in that district. And it's
I love that. Did you see the one where it's like the Cybertruck, or this cyber fucking Mack truck thing was like pulled a 500-mile journey with 81,000 pounds, and then like the most liked reply was like the legal limit's 80,000 pounds. This is illegal. I thought that was pretty fucking funny.
Well, and he's not going to do it.
Limit for electronic trucks.
Oh, really?
No, just like gross vehicle mass for like trucks in general. I think
it's different for e-trucks. I know. I know 80 grand is the limit, but apparently for e-trucks it's like 87 grand.
You know what the most dangerous thing on the road is
it's all
today?
on YouTube.
What? You know what the most dangerous thing on America's roads are?
Cyclists, obviously.
A 90,000-pound e-truck going 75 miles per hour. How much lithium ion is in that motherfucker?
Enough to make the news.
Look, a standard like y'all might know this, but like firefighters now have like a special kit to deal with electric car fires because they burn like 5,000 degrees or something and go on for 45 minutes, whereas like movies and TV shows make regular car fires look like way easier to deal with than they actually are. A regular car fire is an inferno that cooks off and accelerates in a rapid kind of manner, and that car turns into like a furnace oven that's just blasting whatever's in it, and it's full of things that explode and go pop and whiz and scare people whether they're dangerous or not. But an electric car fire is like you brought the fucking sun to Earth. It's the closest thing to a nuclear blast you'll ever get to.
I would bet that those like big lithium ion packs are just like millions of 18650 batteries from vapes just like stacked together. So it's just like a chain reaction of that shit going off.
Yeah, he bought all those Android batteries from when that was happening. The Androids were blowing up like
he put them in Teslas.
Yeah. But like that shit like fizzes off. I mean, I think the only way to put it out is just like dousing it with carbon dioxide and depriving it of oxygen.
Like I said, they have some kind of a kit now to deal with those fires because water ain't the answer, I guess.
And have you seen like the lithium like you remember in school? I don't know if you guys did this. It was either sodium or lithium or something where they like take a strip of it and then drop it in water and it goes because I
think it's sodium.
Becomes active. Yeah, it must be sodium. But, lithium's the same way where like it's so bright, you're not even supposed to like look at it while it's burning. It's bad for your eyes to see something that bright. And you got 1 million of them in a fucking Camry shaped bomb. And like, like that's that.
I would never fucking
you guys
drive
are
one of
selling
those.
me. This is cool.
Man, after seeing
Just
like
yeah.
you go through like all the panels are like detaching on them and shit like that, and you look at the build quality and it's like this is worse put together than a 99 XL Hyundai XL, and then you're telling me it's got a fucking 1-ton bomb under it. Like, there's no fucking way I would drive that.
I wonder about the build quality stuff because I keep hearing about panel gaps. If people don't know, like the trunk will be just slightly off center by like 1/8 of an inch, or the gap next to the trunk where the fenders isn't exactly the same all the way through, and they make a big deal out of that. Should I care about that? I don't care about that.
If I noticed, it would bother me. Like
I care because I think it's indicative of the rest of the car.
That's what I want to know. But
Good
the rest of the car, compared to like an internal combustion engine, is maybe reliable or just like naturally simple compared to an internal combustion engine.
Yeah.
Internal combustion engine is a Rube Goldberg craziness of like transmission and engine and fuel delivery and all that stuff, and the cooling. All that stuff goes away. You have a much simpler idea. Just electric motors and batteries.
You still have to have cooling for the batteries and shit. Like the batteries get hot.
I forgot.
They need like computers for discharge rates, because if you discharge them too fast or too slow, I forget, they can catch fire and shit like that. So I think it's just as complicated.
Real Goldilocks
no, I'm with Woody on this one.
No, it's more complicated. It's less complicated mechanically.
We're transferring the energy so many
logically.
times, like mechanically. Like the energy is being transferred mechanically so many different times between the fucking, I don't know, the ignition and the wheel. There's just a lot of things that break, break into.
You lose a lot of like
complicated to me because I'm stupid and I have a hard time like debugging things that are electric, as opposed to a mechanical thing. I can kind of see where it stops moving or gets jammed up. Yeah. But in terms of reliability, it just seems like it's a better idea, and that it will clearly be more reliable than what we have now.
I think it will be 100%. I'm not saying like electric cars aren't the future, but they definitely will be. I just don't think that Teslas have the build quality to make a car that is like right now more reliable than like a really efficient hybrid from a well-known company. Like,
and we have those numbers. I mean, we don't have to like guess about this, right? Like Tesla has reliable numbers, and then there's been Priuses for, I don't know, 20 years.
Yeah. I choose to guess anyway.
Yeah.
You mean like Tesla has reliable numbers on like, how long they last and shit like that?
I just don't fucking care.
Ed, Tesla sales are dropping, I think 3 quarters in a row. Why? Are people not liking EVs? Are people not liking Elon? Are competitors?
Well, American buyers are absolutely hating EVs. There's a ton of evidence to support that. Although the rental car fleets just re-upped on them, so I think they got exceptional deals on them. But Tesla keeps slashing prices to qualify for different incentives, and that's causing just unfathomable depreciation, like 4 to 5% a month at times. Which in the aggregate, cars depreciate about 1% a month, and so it is a huge problem. A couple of months ago, actually, I got an Audi RS e-tron GT, which is essentially the Audi version of a Taycan Turbo S. And I am not an electric car guy at all, but a friend of mine runs Audi Birmingham, and he called me. He was like, he's really proud of himself because he had worked out this deal to lease these cars for a year, effectively for free, because Audi Financial Services is a different department or a different company really than Audi Corporate. And so Audi Corporate puts these incentives on the cars, and Audi Financial puts the residuals on the leases, and the 1 year residual on the lease was higher than the purchase price, which is effectively creates a free lease. And so it's just like interest and taxes. And so I leased a $160,000 car for $250 a month. And the problem is that is probably they had about 150 of these in nationwide inventory when it began, and they sold them all, which is probably going to be, a $6 to $7 million mistake that Audi Financial will have made when they own these cars a year from now. And those are the kind of things that just kill them. I mean, that's a crippling blow to some of these financial institutions. And so, yeah, Teslas are down, Lucid's abysmal, Rivian's doing okay. But it's
my friend loves his Rivian.
Yeah, I mean, they've got great customer satisfaction. Tesla just recalled every Cybertruck. But go ahead, Kyle.
What's the price tag on a Rivian?
start at like 80, 90.
Yeah.
And then go up to like $130, maybe.
I happened to look last night, not only last night, but a few weeks prior to see what Cybertrucks were going for used. I was like, because I felt like that would be very telling if you can get one used for 80, 140, 150, shit like that in the Atlanta area.
Well, but that's still very new. So when they first came out, a couple of them traded for 200, 240,
Woo!
which was a massive overage. And they were actually being bought by Ford to reverse engineer and see what they needed to do. So Ford bought a dozen of them or something like that. And sometimes that's all it takes to really change the perceived value. There are not a lot of transactions happening in the 140, 50, 60 zone. Okay. And so they're going down very fast because these record prices were less than 2 months ago. Yeah. And so they haven't been delivering them long. You know, they got huge quality issues and stuff like that. So it's really been problematic. And now that the incentives from a tax perspective only apply to American-built cars, the German stuff doesn't. So they're relaxing a lot of these standards about when all their cars have to be EV or a percentage or whatever, because it's just not feasible.
I can see why the rental car market, because I would love, if you offered me a rental EV, I think it's the one I'd pick because I just want to play around with it without committing.
Well, the problem with playing around with it is that you can get stuck somewhere and you open up yourself to some exposure, especially like, you know, I was out in Vegas the other day and you could rent an electric car for a third of what you could rent a gasoline powered car. But I had to go from Vegas to southern Utah. And I was like, well, I don't know what the charging network's going to be. I'm staying at a hotel that inevitably will not have a charger. And I'm going to have to, you know, solve problems associated with having this car. If I was just tooling around the strip, by all means, that makes a lot of sense. And so, you know, Tesla's stock is dropping. They keep saying that the cyber taxi idea is going to be the salvation of the whole, you know, brand. But man, I was, you know, one of my detail guys has they just gave out like free self-driving for a month if you have a car that has the cameras that make it capable, to try to make you subscribe to it. And it's either $100 a month or a $12,000 flat fee to get the self. Oh, is it 8 now?
They lowered it by $4,000, which, like, if you bought it already, you feel ripped off. But right.
Well, they don't care if you bought it already, very clearly, because when you reduce the price of a Model S by $30,000, the trickle down depreciation is just horrific. And Tesla has always had such a devoted fan base because they've always been far ahead in terms of a lot of the technology that they're doing. And so it's been justified. But when they keep getting kicked over and over again, it's really hard to stay that positive on it, especially since the long-term residual values are so terrible.
Yeah, every other car, I feel like repeat buyers are a big part of the business model.
Oh, and huge.
Tesla, I can imagine anyone who, even if you like an EV, you look at the other ones to see if it's greener over there.
Oh, of course.
If I were buying one, let's say my price tag is in that $80,000 to $90,000 range, which is kind of where the mid-range of most of the electrics, it seems, I would want the Tesla. I would want the Tesla. I would. Just because the others don't seem... All right, look, they had the issue with the accelerator plate. Man, they got right to it. They got it fixed. Yeah. I know they just shot a fucking pot rivet in it, but it's fixed. I'd be like, no, thank you. I'm going to use some, like, glue.
Hot glue gun.
I don't want a pot rivet in my accelerator pedal. Maybe I'll just get a full aluminum accelerator setup even, because I'm already $100,000 into a goddamn truck that can't do truck stuff. So like, it's just for looks anyway. That's why I like it. I do like the Cybertruck. Like Woody, I wouldn't care for how much attention you're going to get if you're in one. Like, it's not just like riding around in a nice Corvette or even a Lambo. Like, this thing is huge and tall and wide. Everybody sees you on the block. You could sneak by in a sports car. Nobody knows. You see that Porsche? No, of course you didn't. It can hide behind all the other cars.
Right. I'm curious where you stand on this. Like, to me, a disadvantage of make it like a Ferrari F40 or something.
Sure.
Is that every time I pull up anywhere, I'm getting attention. Does that bother you, or do you like it? Because some people love it.
I don't love it. I don't buy them for that reason. And fortunately, in large cities, it is a lot less of a factor than it was 10 years ago. The volume of production in interesting and weird looking cars is so much higher now than it was a fairly short time ago, that it is wildly different. I had a lime green Lamborghini for a while, and that was a very different experience. And I've had every color of them, than an orange one, red one, yellow one, anything. That one, I mean, people would crash taking pictures of it. And so it was a lot more challenging on a daily basis for that reason. But I would say that I mean, it's not that big of a deal in most markets today. If you drive into a small town, you kind of get that reaction, which is, it's fun, once or twice, but it is a bit of a downside if it was all the time wherever you lived.
Mm-hmm. Whenever we've been driving, like usually classic old cars, like a 55 Chevrolet or something, and you go to a gas station and people would want to look, it's fun to pop the hood and show them, like, look what I did, because you built the thing, especially. It's like, look at the interior. I did that. So I've never minded that, but I can imagine if people try to race me in my fucking Camaro. Some douchebag at the red light the other night wanted to race. And it's like, I could do the math. You're going to win. Look at that. Like, what are we racing for? It's not like
pink slip.
Do you think I got a sleeper over here? Like do the fucking math, asshole. You got a supercharger. But so I can imagine, like, anytime you're in a sports car, you're going to get that a little bit. But that Tesla truck is going to really, I like how it looks. I know it's ugly, but what I would do is I would wrap it in like a dark hunter green, like the halo color, like that's on the Warthog. And I would like that. And I would, tint the windows out and everything. But man,
it's got worse graphics than the Halo 1 Warthog.
Yeah, it looks like the Laura Croft with the square titties.
Yeah.
Remember when the Laura Croft with the square titties?
Yeah.
It's that era.
They're not aesthetically pleasing.
But every video I see about it, and maybe it's propaganda, it's like, look, the patina on every body piece is different. Like, this, I mean, only one of those would be kind of fun too. The patina on every body piece is different. Right. I don't care that it will absolutely cut your fingers off if you have your your hand in the lift gate back there. That didn't bother me. But
is that not software? Maybe there's, I don't know.
It is, yeah, because I saw a comparison where they took 5 other things with hatches similar-ish, Volvos, maybe a Acura, this and that, and they ate a carrot and maybe a cucumber. And yeah, it's like everybody else.
Why both?
Well, because if you they have them next to each other, and the cucumber is more sturdy than a carrot, so the carrot goes first, and if it pops that, then it goes to the cucumber. If it's popping the carrot and the cucumber before the software says stop, then that means you're going to lose something. Like I don't know, maybe a big heavy man finger could take it, but a lady is losing her fingers. Does
Tesla still have the best electric cars, or you're saying, like, at this point they're not even better than like Fords, or I don't even know who the example would be for?
No, I mean there's it depends on how you want to judge it, right? So what Tesla does have, and what is unfortunately not good for society, is the private supercharger network, which is more reliable than the general public supercharger network. Now, that's great if you own a Tesla, but if you want to look at the world, it's not good, because it's a waste of space and a waste of energy to have any kind of charging area that's only good for one make of car. Imagine gas station. Imagine you had to take your Ford to a Ford gas station and there's a Chevy gas station right fucking there.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be terrible, right? And that's what we're looking at with Tesla charging, right? It's great if you own a Tesla. It's reliable because the software only needs to interact with one type of car as opposed to with every type of car. Remember when Apple CarPlay first started, and it was really wonky with all the different types of cars, but they sort of figured it out eventually. That's where we're at with.
So Teslas would only be able to charge at Tesla stations, and everything else would have to charge at the everything else station.
Well, Teslas can charge everywhere.
Oh, okay.
But other cars can't charge at Tesla stations right now. That's what we're looking at right now. So good for Tesla owners, bad for the world.
So that'll literally be their big selling point if they maintain that network over time, where it'll be like a Verizon map, where it'll be like, here's the access to energy if you don't have a Tesla. Here's what it looks like if you do. And
now that's in Europe, in the European Union, Tesla stations are legally required in many countries in the EU to provide power to non-Teslas.
Yeah, so they're required to have batteries that can come out too. That ain't happening here. So this sounds like Tesla has a huge future. If he can, like, if he can use his control over the government's entire space program, because he's the only one sending us up there anymore, right? Like to get him to be like, hey, maybe you just let us do this little monopoly thing where we put our charging stations everywhere. And hey, look, the thing about a Tesla station, it draws so much power. We can't have a Ford or GM station within 3 city blocks of any of them. Well, yeah, we do have a lot of them, and it is going to be hard for them to find a place to put theirs. I don't think it's them legislating their way in.
I think it's a different department you're talking to, but
they're all interconnected, right?
But
with the reptilians?
without something like the EU regulating it, which right now we don't have, they do have an advantage there. Having said that, the cars themselves have in many ways lost their first mover advantage that they have.
Yeah, for sure.
Ford, not just Ford and General Motors, Audi, Porsche, you have, and not to mention you have startups like Lucid and Rivian.
Audi and Porsche make more sense anyway to compete against someone who's going to buy $100,000 Tesla. They're probably.
I mean, I just drove the Lucid Air, dude. The Lucid Air is way nicer than the Tesla Model S. I mean, it doesn't have the Supercharger network, but it's a nicer product. The Rivian trucks and SUVs are dope as fuck.
I've been in one of those.
They're awesome. They're so. I mean, they're expensive.
It looks
they're not
well
for
thought
everybody,
out.
but they're built. You would never get in a Rivian and go, this is the company's first vehicle. It's built super, super nicely. And then you've got, whether you agree with it or not, the government is forcing all mainstream manufacturers to produce a certain number of electric vehicles. The Hyundai Ioniq and the Kia EV6 are super nice. I mean, really, I have my wife drives every day the Ford Mach-E, which is a really nice product.
Tesla is losing its prestige because of
they got a 15 to 20 year first mover advantage that they could have really intelligently worked with and worked from, but from the Twitter thing and all this other shit, they're burning that credibility by not investing properly in the product. And with all these crazy distractions and him burning his liberal cred by going crazy fucking right wingy, it's not going to go well for them.
Yeah, that's what I was starting to say. Like he went right before the midterms and said vote Republican. You may agree or disagree with that, but it's undeniable that it's bad.
Not who buys his cars,
right? It's not who buys his cars. And then you got a guy like Michael Jordan saying, "Hey, I don't get political because Republicans buy sneakers too." Right? That's a famous Jordan line. The Republicans barely bought Teslas in the first place, and now you're all in with them. Bad call.
Why do you think Republicans weren't buying Teslas?
I think I was looking at it as a green thing, in the same way that I think Republicans don't really buy Priuses.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. And look, certain people are trying. I mean, have you seen the new electric Hummer? I mean, it's not for lack of trying. They're figuring out that
the Hummer went from, and this is like mid 2000s, so I'm like a teenager. I'm in high school. I remember the Hummer being the sickest of sick, cool things in 2004, 2005. And then by the time I was in college, you saw a Hummer and people were like, wow, that's gay. And it's like, what?
Kryptonite.
When did we switch? 3 years ago, we all said it was a cool army truck. And now it's not a cool army truck.
We switched like a week after Hurricane Katrina.
Why?
Oh, yeah?
Because gasoline was $5 a gallon, and it never went back down again ever.
Yeah.
It's been crazy high since. It has.
Kyle's right. There was a very drastic shift right around Hurricane Katrina, and all of a sudden, gas guzzling, giant SUVs immediately became uncool. And one of the, if you look at GM, you look at Ford to an instance, you certainly look at Dodge and they go, how do I get my middle America people to buy an electric car? You make it more wasteful than a gas car. That's how you do it. A 9,000 pound, 1,000 horsepower truck that somehow is less efficient.
The weights
than
of these cars are outrageous. The Rivian's 8,000 pounds.
Yeah, they're super heavy. Yeah, they are. That's no joke. Batteries are heavy as fuck.
I want to see collision data, not about
it's not good. It's not good. I mean,
I want to know about the ones that explode.
Do you want it to tell you after you get in a wreck where it's
I thought
like
you meant pedestrians?
Kyle, mainframe?
Oh, fuck pedestrians!
Damage.
Look. My favorite thing about Texas is those brush guards that they've all got on their fucking trucks, and people see that and they're like, "Oh, what an asshole! How big's your dick?" If you've ever driven it through Texas at night, that's your shield against the night. You need that motherfucker because they just. No, fucking deer. Fucking
no, you're gonna. If you're gonna,
I like my way better.
No, they always tell you when you see a hitchhiker in the road, you don't want to slow down. You because if you slow down, it can hurt you more. You just got to plow through them. It's a shame because they are living creatures, but
you need one there. You need a brush guard there.
Do you? Because the
deer,
because of the brush,
large roadkill. I guess I'll call it. Yeah.
Deer, fucking deer. Yeah. They make them specifically for deer. There's like a deer guard.
Are Texas deer different than the deer that North Carolina and Georgia have?
It's more about like the wide open nature, the overpopulation. That seems like I'm talking about just there are these big stretches of road where it seems like you're just driving through their habitat, and it's not like in Georgia where
you're driving 80 because it's Texas.
You're going fast. There's straightaways. Like
the speed limit is 80, and so, like the speed limit's 80. So people are going 100.
Taylor, did you think I drove 80 through Texas? You're adorable.
It's wide open.
In this group, I'm the biggest bitch driver. It's not even close.
but as you're going, you see like pods of deer every 5 minutes, like 3, 4, 5. Sometimes you'd be like, that's 17 of them out there. Like they're just hundreds and hundreds. I mean, that's why we're there. We're shooting stuff, like everywhere you went, there was something to shoot in Texas.
If we could jump right from where we are now, which is humans driving cars, to input destination and take a nap. If we could do that, that would be one thing, right? In order to do that, we'd have to redesign our roads. We'd have to pretty much ban all human-driven cars so that all cars could communicate with each other wirelessly, right? Because you need the car needs to actually be able to communicate with the other car, not just see it.
Can you imagine how efficient traffic would be?
It would be. It would be. We would be trading things away from our traffic.
I wish if we could do that, I think Elon's car deals with my situation better than me. It would not have stopped paying attention.
Well, I disagree with that. Okay. I think that in certain so what I advocate for is not a car where the human is responsible for babysitting a computer, which is what Elon's car is. Computer does some driving tasks, and you, the human, are responsible for taking over in an emergency situation. Humans are really bad at babysitting machines. Really, really bad at it. Humans are actually really good at driving. I know it doesn't seem like that because people die on the roads, and you can point to fatalities and you can point to accidents. And, oh, by the way, you didn't get into an accident. Okay. Maybe it wasn't because you didn't make a mistake or the other person didn't make a mistake, but a human solved that problem and an accident was avoided. Okay. And humans can be distracted by the radio or by their phone or by their kids in the back seat. But fundamentally, a trained human paying attention is a very good driver and will get to their destination 99.9999% of the time. An average human, gets a ticket for an infraction like once every 5 years, gets into an accident once every 30 years. It's really not common. So it's a very, average human does a lot of driving. So we think anecdotally that humans are not good drivers, but by and large, they really are.
I mean, I've always thought that because it's like, think about how long you're doing it. And
I know.
Like we just accept
to not die.
We just accept that the roadways are the way they are. But like so many times, even as a kid and even today, like as an adult, I'll be like, man, they just got that soccer mom going 80 miles an hour coming right at me. Yeah. And if I reached out far enough, I could touch her.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
we drive really close together, really fast in opposite directions.
It's insane that we do that.
If you want to see what it could be, watch the Top Gears where they go to India.
Yeah.
They just India.
Yeah.
5 times as many people as here. They totally are, I guess, all against lines in the road.
Yeah.
It's just big amounts of pavement, and everyone's doing whatever they think is okay at the moment.
Yeah.
Like
there's studies actually that show that
that
fewer road markings actually improve driver safety. Like they have fewer fatalities per capita in Vietnam than they do fucking here, and they have those schools of fish scooters kind of thing going on. But what I'm getting at is, if rather than going for this full autonomy thing, what if we designed a parallel autonomy system where the human drove the car, but the computers babysat the human? And basically, you still had to drive, but your car became fundamentally uncrashable. That is what I advocate for. And we can use, by repositioning our priorities and not trying to sell an autonomous vehicle that will drive for you, we could try to sell a car that will look over your shoulder and be very aware of your blind spot when you went to go merge, and maybe take an evasive action on your behalf, or give you better warnings that this guy is going to come across. And we call this parallel autonomy as opposed to series autonomy, which is you press a button and the car drives for you.
That's an interesting idea.
And so I advocate for that, which would actually improve road safety.
Yeah, but I don't want to be safe. I want to be cool.
Well, Kyle, that is what Elon Musk is selling. He's selling coolness under a pretense of he's cherry picking data to make cool sound safe.
I like
when actually it's not that safe.
A lot of wins here. So you said something that triggered a thought in my head that it
triggered.
People are bad at babysitting machines, and it's because of the TSA. They watch luggage come through, and they're looking for knives and guns. They're looking for knives and guns, and they're terrible at it.
Great example.
Because 99.999% of the time, there's no knife and there's no gun in that bag. So the bag just goes through. They get the right answer all the time.
100% true. Yes.
And then every once in a blue moon, some guy has a knife or a gun on it. Might even be a test, right? It might be a fellow, it might be a coworker who's trying to see if they're paying attention. And the reason they miss them so much is that you get lulled into a sense of the right action is to ignore it.
Yeah.
So when a car gets things right 99.9% of the time, people aren't going to catch the mistake because of that same.
Did you see the guy?
And here's what's interesting about 99.9. 99.9 is a number that sounds really good. But in the context of your car driving you somewhere, it's fucking terrible. Imagine if you got into an accident 1 out of 1,000 trips. If you get in your car 1,000 times, so how many times you get in your car? 3 times a day, right? 3 times a day means once a year you're getting into a crash. That's fucking terrible. You're an awful driver. You know what I mean? So you need to be orders of magnitude better than that in order to
happens.
Be
that same thought process happens in aviation a lot. Like 99% of the time you'll be fine.
That's horrible.
99% of the time, aviation is okay is not very good at all.
Yeah,
that's awful. That's a terrible ratio.
You couldn't keep up with manufacturing of airplanes if that were the case. They'd just be dropping out of the sky every day.
Yeah. So you know, I read Argo AI, which is an autonomous vehicle research firm. I read their safety briefing. It's like 50 pages, and you should give me a medal for reading that. And and the section on here's how we hire people, and here's our process of the people we hire, and it is exhaustive. They have a 12-week training program. They have all these different levels of testing. They have classroom. They have driving tests. They make them monitor the cars on a closed course and all this kinds of shit. And then at the end of this, only 4 to 6% of them actually get the job. And when they're out there driving those cars around or babysitting these cars as they drive themselves around, they are covered under an Argo AI insurance policy where if this car crashes into you, the company is responsible for it. You know, that Tesla doesn't do that.
That shows a lot more confidence in their system.
Well, it shows that they're taking responsibility for the liability and not just the upside, not just the fanfare, you know? And so in my opinion, to improve safety, you have to improve safety each step of the way. You don't get to say Machiavelli style, oh yeah, well we're gonna have some fucking crashes, but this is for the greater good.
Again,
I don't really buy
aim
that.
too high, Machiavelli style. So that's like Italian accent.
Yeah.
It's the Tupac version of Italian history. So, and especially because, like I said before, not everybody that you're sharing the road with has bought into the beta. You know what I mean? We didn't all agree that it was kosher to fucking hands off this bitch and send it. I certainly didn't agree to it, and the right to swing your fists ends at my nose, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's my opinion on Tesla semi-autonomous systems.
It doesn't have to do with the Tesla autonomous thing, but like when we were looking at the pictures of the Cybertruck, like it seems like almost structurally, you're like, no, structurally that's impossible. They can't make something like.
Well, he talked about an exoskeleton. I've talked to multiple material science engineers who are like, you can't fucking build that. Like that doesn't.
What's like the limiting factor?
How is it different than unibody? Well, he's literally saying the structure is the outside. A unibody has a real underneath structure to it. And I'm not an engineer, but I just don't think that works. And he's the kind of person who would throw some shit at the wall and then tell the engineers to go figure it out later. I mean, and not that strategy has worked sometimes in the past. I mean, they've ended up with some interesting, sometimes successes by doing that. They've also ended up with some fucking horrible failures, like the Falcon wing doors on the Model X. And other
There's
stuff
a thing
like
in
that.
Tesla culture, Elon culture, where they just say everything's easy. Oh,
yes.
Self-driving is an easy problem to solve. Self-landing rockets, that's incredibly simple. Everything's incredibly simple and no challenge for them.
When you're surrounded by yes men, and when people are financially invested in agreeing that the emperor is in fact wearing clothes, that's plus people want to believe. People have seen
it's fun.
Future movies, and they want to believe that by investing in this and buying into it, that's how we get to those future movies.
It just devil's advocate. There's not a lot of money to be made in shorting Tesla stock.
Look, I mean, unfortunately, for me, who is an advocate of safety and who does not buy or sell any automotive stocks, I don't like to talk about the stock because I think the price of the stock is not a good indicator of whether or not a company is doing good for the world. I mean, you could have probably people have made a lot of money on Tesla stock. And so if someone is out there with a purely financial motivation who invested in Tesla because they thought they could make money, that's cynical, but I can't be too mad at that. But I think there's people who will not say that the emperor has no clothes when the emperor has no clothes because they're financially incentivized to fucking shut up about it because they're making money.
I wish people saw it the same way I did. Like, here's what Elon has actually done. He has rockets that land sometimes, and he's made a Model 3.
Yeah.
All the shit about the Boring Company. All the shit about
the
those
tunnel in
solar
Vegas.
roofs. Those solar roofs. Do you remember how great that was going to be? I bought into it.
Yeah.
I was like, this guy's incredible. He makes giga factories. I don't know how they're different than other factories, but they're giga.
Means they're big. They're giants. They're huge.
This guy makes these amazing batteries that I guess are better than other batteries. I think
he buys them from Panasonic. His batteries are Panasonic batteries.
I know Panasonic. That's reliable. That's right. They're a known name in batteries.
Man, in 1985 stereo systems, there was nothing like a Panasonic.
I want to say that maybe he's making his own batteries now, or at least partly.
They've just started to, but the cars aren't using them yet.
Okay, but yeah, apparently he thinks he can make a better battery, and it somehow with that, I was like, well, if he can make good batteries, then he'll make great solar roofs, and you can't get them. You can't get them. Everyone's unhappy.
I mean, look, I will give this man credit where I believe it is due. He made electric cars cool, right? Before Tesla, electric cars were not very cool.
But they don't look cool.
and he built one that looked like an Aston Martin and went really fast, and it had an innovative cell phone like interface. And now other companies have realized that that is in fact what some people want out of their car, and so that has moved that industry forward by a lot. So he gets credit for that shit. I'll give him that. And the rockets are pretty cool. I'll give him the fucking rockets. The rockets.
He made mom cars that go 0 to 60 in 3 seconds.
Yeah, he didn't invent landing rockets. They had landing rockets before, but landing rockets are cool. So God bless landing rockets. But there's a lot of utter horse shit that comes out of his mouth also, and so I really try to take a look at what is the reality of the situation regarding that company as opposed to the fantasy of it.
I think at one point this was on the show years ago, we were talking about the solar roof thing, and like it was like not a Tesla pushed article, or it probably was Tesla pushed. It was on some like tech mag, and like at the bottom, I think we all realized like at the current price point they had them set for, it's like, oh, so like my children's children could see savings. Like no, we're gonna need to get this a lot closer to like the commodity brand before anyone can jump into this, because like at the point it was a few years ago, I remember it being like, oh, this is like something that Leonardo DiCaprio could do for the lark and one of his mansions, like a little fun project for him. Like he doesn't care about that amount of money.
I have a car question. I think you'll knock it out of the park. There has been a trend away from Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. I'm pretty sure it's called. I don't use that one.
Yeah, it is Android Auto.
I am a huge fan of Apple CarPlay. I love it. And I've never owned a car in my life that got upgraded for free. But when you use CarPlay, all of a sudden, like, there's a new mapping service. There's a new there's a new UI. Now you can use Spotify and Maps at the same time, whatever.
Right.
Ford doesn't upgrade your car. They ask you to buy a new one. But Apple will upgrade your phone. It's like you buy Apple, you buy into a platform and expect it to get better every year, at least a little bit.
Sure.
So when I hear they're moving away from CarPlay, I think that sucks. But everyone seems to be doing it, and I don't understand why. Maybe so.
Yeah, a couple of reasons. One, I drive an electric Ford, and they do over-the-air updates, and it does get slightly better. So I know you randomly said Ford, and
that's what my truck is.
I happen to have experience with the wire over-the-air upgrades in an electric Ford. But that notwithstanding, your point about getting away from CarPlay as a trend is accurate. So you've got a couple things going on at once. You've got the, quote, startup companies, which Tesla is not a startup anymore, but we can still categorize them that way. Tesla, Lucid, Rivian, that do not use CarPlay at all, or Android Auto. They have their own proprietary systems. Mainly, in my opinion, because A, they don't want to spend the money licensing the software. They don't want to open up their UI to Apple's engineers to QC it and whatever and make them talk to the thing. And it's hard to integrate. You know, it's harder than most people give the manufacturers credit for to integrate Apple CarPlay and Android Auto pretty seamlessly. And if you remember 10-ish years ago, it was kind of a mishmash of what cars and phones worked together. And it wasn't until a couple generations of phones and a couple generations in of cars where it became kind of a standard thing. Okay. So then now we're at a point where where manufacturers don't want to give up the control of their software. And they're going, well, we don't really need Apple because Tesla was able to be successful without Apple. And Rivian has been able to be successful without Apple. Lucid may or may not be successful, but that notwithstanding, manufacturers tend to follow Tesla because they think it's cool. Now, I disagree, but that's my opinion. And Tesla has proven that you don't need CarPlay to sell cars. And I think what the manufacturers are also learning is that CarPlay has restrictions. And Apple, if your system is dependent on CarPlay, particularly Android Auto, not so much, but CarPlay, the manufacturers or Apple can push you around. Apple can make you do certain things to make CarPlay work better that you may not want to do. And certain companies want to offer in-car purchases, like the ability to upgrade your fucking whatever, the ability to offer subscription-based features, the ability to offer shit that isn't good for you, the consumer, right? And CarPlay is a hindrance to that. You have other companies, for instance, Volvo and Polestar are totally integrated with Google's car software. So CarPlay will work on a Volvo, but not wireless CarPlay because they haven't got the licensing for that. And I don't know if they're going to end up paying for that. So I am very pro CarPlay. I think CarPlay is an amazing way to pretty seamlessly and quickly integrate the things you need from your phone into a car. I use it in all my cars. And when I've driven Teslas and Rivians and Lucid and I don't have CarPlay, I get kind of annoyed because I don't think what they're offering is better, with the exception of I do like Tesla's nav map when there is when I'm in a city or somewhere with good coverage. Tesla, Rivian, and Lucid don't have satellite connections, which I really don't like because I use my phone for GPS through CarPlay or whatever when I have service. But I'm using an onboard nav when I'm out in the middle of nowhere with no cell service. And if I have no cell service, a lot of these native systems don't work. Those cars also don't have satellite radio, which I happen to like satellite radio. I know not everybody does, but I happen to. And but to go back to your point, I think the automakers are trying to exert more control and the opportunity to sell you shit through their cars.